In the next video in the series of index laws, we're going to be looking at negative and fractional indices together. This combines negative indices and fractional indices. So if you haven't done so, go back and look at the videos I've made on those two topics already, because that will help you with this chapter. We've got two examples on the board here. We have 8 to the minus 1/3 and 25 to the minus 3/2. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start by splitting the negative away from the fraction. 8 to the minus 1 to the power 1/3. Don't forget, when we're in brackets, we multiply the powers together. And minus 1 times 1/3 is minus 1/3, which is why we can do this. 8 to the minus 1, when you raise it to a negative power, you take the reciprocal. It flips over. So that becomes 1/8 to the power 1/3. And remember, when we're taking a fractional power, power 1/3 means cube root. So I'm taking the cube root of 1/8, which is the same as the cube root of 1 divided by the cube root of 8, which would just be 1/2. You can split the fraction up as such. If you're raising to the power minus 3/2, we'll do the same thing. We'll do 25 to the minus 1, and then to the power 3/2. 25 to the minus 1 is 1/25, and we're going to raise that to the power 3/2. Now thinking back to the last video, what we do is we split the 3/2 up into the 1/2. So we do 1/25 to the power 1/2, and then we cube it. Again, it's like we're multiplying the powers together because they're in brackets. Power 1/2 means square root, so that is 1/5 cubed, which would therefore be 1/125. But what would happen if your base isn't a whole number, but it's a fraction? For example, 25/16 to the power minus 3/2. Well, we do the same thing. We do the minus, then we're going to do the half, then we're going to do the power 3. The minus flips the fraction over. It's called taking the reciprocal. So we can get rid of the minus and just flip the fraction over. 16/25 to the 3/2. We now split the 3/2 up just as before. So we get 16/25 to the power 1/2. And then we're going to cube that. Power half means square root. So we get 4/5 cubed, which we now cube. 4 cubed is 64. 5 cubed is 125. As a final extension, let's combine this with algebra. Let's take, for example, 27x to the power 9 over 8 y to the power 6, and we're going to raise this to the power minus 2/3. Start again with the negative. Take the reciprocal, flip the fraction over. 8y to the 6 over 27x to the power 9, and we're going to raise this to the power 2/3. We do the same thing, and we split it up so we have the power 1/3. 8y to the 6 over 27x to the power 9, all to the power 1/3, and then squared. Now, when you're taking the 1/3, that means cube root. The numbers are exactly the same. So we take the cube root of the top, that's 2, cube root of the 27, which is 3. And we're still going to have the squared on the end, so I'm just going to write that in. But what we now need to look at is the y to the power 6 and the x to the power 9, all to the power 1/3. Often students forget this and they just write y to the power 6, x to the power 9, but you need to incorporate the brackets with the indices as well. When you're dealing with brackets, you multiply the powers. So we do 6 times 1/3, that's 2, so it's y squared. And we do 9 times 1/3, which is 3. So we get x to the power 3. And then we're going to square that. So I get 2 squared, 3 squared, y squared squared, and x cubed squared. 2 squared is 4. Y squared squared is y to the power 4. Don't forget we multiply the powers, just as before. Over 9 x to the power 6. Let's have one final example. 36 over 16 x to the power 4, all to the minus 3/2. Negative flips the fraction over. 16x to the 4, over 36 to the power 3 over 2. And at this stage, you notice that actually those numbers will cancel down. You don't have to cancel them down, but it will help if you do. If we divide top and bottom by 4, I get 4x to the power 4 over 9. And from this, we're going to do 3 over 2. Now, the 1/2 square roots, so we're going to square root everything. The 4 becomes a 2. We do x to the power 4, raise to the power 1/2, so that's x squared. And we have 9 to the power 1/2, which is 3. And then we're finally going to cube it. 2 cubed is 8. We get x to the power 6 over 27. Now at this stage here, when we were dealing with these, we simplified it down. 16 over 36 became 4 over 9. If you didn't spot that, you can still square root. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 36 is 6. You can then cube it, 64 over 216, and then simplify it down as well. It will still give you 8 over 27. So if you don't spot that you need to simplify the fractions down, don't worry. It will still work regardless.